Hang on.
Is that it? Are we up? Do a little theme song music.
What is that?
That's our theme song that I just made up.
Man.
Yeah, I just riffed it.
Alan Thicke, you are not.
I don't have that kind of voice, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, no.
voice.
Alan Thicke is Robin Thicke's father, and he was a
I know
sitcom.
who Alan Thicke is.
But did you know he wrote? Did you know he wrote jingles?
No.
Yeah.
Which ones?
He wrote a heavy hitter that I can't remember.
Okay, hold on, wait, real quick. This.
Did he write Facts of Life?
It's okay, shh, quiet. This.
You how? Don't test me, Dito. Do not test me.
All right,
not today.
Give us an intro real quick, and then we'll get back into Alan.
Hi, welcome to CP Live. I'm gonna kill Ryan Dito on air.
I'm Ryan Dito. I'm gonna be killed soon. Murder.
That's right.
Oh my god! Oh, this is
Okay.
a movie I watched recently.
What movie was it?
Oh, I forget, some old movie where like the whole plot is that this guy thinks his fiance or wife is cheating on him, and then he's like a famous concerto or whatever, and it's a really old movie. It's like from the 40s or something.
Oh.
And then he goes through all these fantasies of how he's going to basically like murder her as like retribution to her cheating on him, but she wasn't actually cheating on him. He's just like a paranoid like loser. Yeah.
Like Vincent Price, or it could be like lower tier Hitchcock.
Yeah, it's not
either
Hitchcock,
one.
but
Okay.
yeah.
Sounds like it could be.
It's good.
Oh yeah,
Check it
it
out.
sounds really familiar, and I'm trying to think of like. But anyway, yeah, I'm Amanda Waltz. I'm senior arts and entertainment writer for the City Paper. Real rough start to a very cold day.
Yeah, it's true. It is really cold. It's a cold one out there.
Awful outside.
Yeah, it's been a pretty mild winter though.
That's true. That's true. But I feel like we need a couple like deathly cold days to kill off those mosquito eggs or whatever is like in the ground.
Sorry, Josh is eating a hard-boiled egg over here.
Josh is eating. That is the most disgusting shit.
No salt, no anything. Just straight up.
You know what? I've been thinking, should I eat hard-boiled eggs for breakfast? And now watching Josh shove one into his cram hole.
Yeah.
I think maybe.
No mustard, no mayo, just yeah.
You're right there, man. So how are you, Ryan?
I'm pretty good.
Yeah?
You know, it is cold.
It's very
cold.
You're wearing your Buttsville
I got my
Johnny's.
Hot Dog Johnny's, Buttsville, New Jersey. Check it out.
Yeah, good
Great.
stuff. Good
It's
stuff.
Good stuff.
I don't like the heavy hot dog branding that we have here at the City Paper, and I think it's mostly because of you and Lisa.
Yeah, I think we both love hot dogs, but vehemently disagree that their sandwiches are not sandwiches, and they're obviously not.
I do not care. As a person who now has to eat vegetarian hot dogs, I'm no longer a fan of hot dogs.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, they taste like old bike rubber,
Yuck.
like bike tire rubber. It's disgusting. Make a freaking vegetarian hot dog that
Impossible hot dog.
Is there an Impossible hot dog?
No, but this is our new business idea.
Impossible
Dog.
Impossible dog?
There we go.
Impossible meat, Beyond Meat, get on it.
But it's gonna have to be a lot different than, because a lot of the Impossible meat is like.
Well, it's like ground meat.
Yeah, it's more like beef, but I guess some of it's like, because I had an Impossible sausage sandwich at Dunkin'.
It's good. Isn't it good?
A little too much sage for my taste.
Really?
Yeah,
I
a
love
little
sage.
A little too herby for me.
I'm a sage
but
head.
It wasn't bad, I will say.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's definitely something I would eat. I thought it was a little bit too much herbs.
It was moist.
Yeah, it was moist. So if they're gonna do if they can do an Impossible, what is basically like a replication of like a pork sausage,
Yeah.
they could do a hot dog.
They could definitely do a hot dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just every
World,
other
get on it.
vegetarian hot dogs. Make it good. We put a man on the moon. We put multiple people on the moon.
Multiple people, not a woman though.
Not a woman.
unfortunately.
True.
Yeah.
Thank God, right?
Boo. But also, like, you know what? Let's like fuck going back to the moon. I hate all this like garbage, like weird pseudo patriotism about like, we're gonna go to moon and then we're gonna go to Mars, and it's like, we haven't even figured out how to build a fucking high-speed rail yet in America.
Yeah.
Like we're focused on like the stupidest crap. Like we're focused on this like dream sequence stuff where we're like, we're gonna do this. It's like we haven't even figured out the basics of how to like give everyone health care.
Yeah.
You know, like
maybe let's not. Maybe let's put
by
a
the
pin
way,
in Mars.
Yeah, because you're not gonna get healthcare by going to Mars. Okay, let's just
Yeah.
you know.
Wait, is there healthcare on Mars?
I heard Mars has
There's a
great
little-
healthcare.
It's like the Legend of Zelda or something. There's like a little like chest there, and you get to Mars, and then you get it, and then everyone gets healthcare. You know, it's like
Amazing.
a magic thing. You know.
Maybe we should go to Mars. Anyway, I have no transition.
No transition. Well, okay, I'll help. Let's
Okay.
talk about a story we just dropped yesterday that is blowing up.
Drop it
Is
like
it?
it's hot, hot. Drop it like. Sorry.
Yeah. We're getting some shares. It's got a lot of clicks on Facebook.
Got a lot of
at
clicks
least. I
on
noticed
Facebook.
I don't
Oh
know
man,
about
it's blowing
Oda.
up the F up on Twitter.
Yes.
It's real, which I'm surprised because usually we get a lot more traffic on Facebook than we do on Twitter, and it's like the opposite. I feel like
It's weird because right now, just initially, because it just dropped like last evening, so we still have probably a few days to like share it and really boost it. But so far, the Facebook traffic has been fewer shares but lots of clicks.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
And I think that like if we just do a more explosive social post that has like some quotes in it or something, then it'll probably get more shares.
Boy, this
but
thing.
on Twitter, it's the perfect kind of Twitter story because it's just one of those things where it's like the story's so insane that a lot of people are just like, this story's so insane, and it like and then it just,
Oh,
like,
100%.
blows up, you know?
Yeah. Oh God, what's her name? The one woman. I'm trying to find
Jane Pitt.
Virginia. Yeah.
Yeah, Virginia.
She shared it, and I looked down at the thread, and it was just like a bunch of reaction gifs, and like, oh my God, whoa!
Yeah,
and I was like,
all right, well,
wow.
well, you know, let's tell the listeners.
I was
what
about to
exactly
say
it's
we're
about.
burying the lead. So for those of you who have been online recently on the City Paper website, I shared this story. This seriously consumed a good couple days of my life.
Just read the lead right now. I mean,
Okay.
sorry, just read the headline right now.
Crocheted penises punctuate Mattress Factory clash with fiber artist Oleg after revoking residency.
Oh my god.
So
good.
here's the thing.
So crocheted penises were involved.
Crocheted
A
penises
big
were
public
involved.
fight was involved.
I thought I had the story done. I had done all my interviews and everything, and then on Wednesday, around 4 o'clock, I got this text that Oleg, who I had spoken to earlier that day, was doing a performance called Dickalicious at Mattress Factory.
Right. So you were just kind of following up on a Post-Gazette story that was
So
a
the
little more
Post-Gazette
shallow
story.
in terms of what exactly had happened at this fight.
It
But I
was,
mean, that's fine.
Yeah, they
but-
were reporting on.
Right.
So what happened was
Yeah.
Oleg had a residency. She's a world famous fiber artist.
There.
Sorry.
It's all good.
It's
all good.
so bad.
It's okay.
So they are a world famous fiber artist. They had a residency at Mattress Factory. They were at, it wasn't a Mattress Factory event. It was a party hosted by Pittsburgh. It's a tasting event, beer and wine tasting event.
In Vibe.
And there's conflicting reports that they injured a guest. Oleg claims it was an accident. The museum claims and the police claim that it may have been intentional.
Yeah. It was a headbutting incident.
Yeah, that they had headbutted this guest and he was bleeding profusely. They never identified who the guest was. So PG reported on this using she, her pronouns, which is why I keep messing it up.
Right.
But reading it, I had so many questions.
Yeah.
And
It left a lot to be desired.
Yeah, so I went on Twitter. Well, actually, Lisa originally shared it, and then me and D.S. Kenzel and J. Thomas Agnew of Boom Concepts, we were all just kind of talking amongst ourselves, like, what is going on?
Right.
There's
right.
so many
There's
details
something
left
more
out.
here, yeah.
So I talked to Haley Holdeman and Mandy Wilson of Mattress Factory, and then I talked to Oleg, and I, did these like really just. Talk to them for a long time.
Right. And so you were close to just kind of providing more details about what happened at that
I just wanted to know.
Initial confrontation with the arrest and with the alleged headbutting.
Right.
But then,
Yeah.
before you were about to just
I was like, I'm
be done with that story,
Yeah.
then Oleg announces
texted me.
some penis related event.
So Oleg, so I had done all my interviews, and we had our panel on Wednesday night, our media panel, and I was about to leave, and got this text, and they said, I really want you to come. I'm doing this performance with these crocheted penises.
What?
Okay.
What?
And I'm doing it at 5:30. I didn't get this text till like 5:20, so I'm like, well, there's absolutely no way I'm going to be able to walk from the CB offices to Mattress Factory.
Yeah.
So
it's a good 40-minute walk at
it's
least.
a very long walk.
Yeah.
And also I have an event to go to, so please keep me updated. They were arrested. They were let out of the building. And they texted me updates.
Right.
So
They're
this
like live
was,
texting you.
They were
basically.
live texting me these updates.
In the cop car, I think.
I thought my head was going to explode. I didn't know what to do. And so I emailed Haley Haldeman, who I mentioned earlier, who is the interim executive director at Mattress Factory, and said, what's going on?
Also married to Connor Lamb.
Also married to Connor Lamb.
It's just interesting. It's just
It
like
is
it's the whole thing.
Yeah. She is, I will say this. So called her the next day, her and Mandy Wilson, who's the marketing director at Mattress Factory. And we had a discussion, and I said, what happened? And they said, well, they weren't allowed on the property because of this incident. It was sort of, I mean, there had been previous incidences before this.
There was a lot of drama. There was a lot of confrontations. There was a lot of
of confrontations.
A lot of arguments and arguably
A lot of
inappropriate behavior
allegations,
that had happened between Oleg and the Mattress Factory.
Yeah, the M by Pittsburgh incident was just basically the culmination of okay, this is the last straw. You need to leave. We need you to leave because we feel like it's in the best interest of the safety and security of our guests and staff.
Which is what the Post-Gazette story had mentioned,
yes,
but it didn't explain. So it was kind of like, oh, this was a culmination, but like no one knows what the culmination is about.
Yeah.
And so...
I mean, they talk a little bit about it because Oleg, they had been using abusive language against employees.
Yeah.
They had been bringing up the scandal that happened in 2018 where employees had gone to the board and had gone to Michael Olenek about sexual assault allegations, and they didn't take care of it quickly enough.
Right.
And they had some opinions about that. It's a whirlwind. So actually, well, it's funny because I called Mandy and Haley and we just started laughing.
Right.
I mean, we were laughing.
You got some great quotes. What was so nice is that like normally like in these kind of stories, like directors or heads of organizations are like more guarded and stuff like that. But it was actually really refreshing that like Haley was like, yeah, like Oleg like threatened me with dicks or something. Like basically.
Oh, so if you look on the story, they're crocheted penises. They're almost like doilies, and I think they're part. This is sort of an extension of
word.
It's like a dick doily.
It's not like a dick doily. It is a dick doily. Yes.
So basically, Oleg, as protest, they were not allowed on the Mattress Factory premises because of, like I said before, they were like, we feel like you're a danger.
Right. It's private property. It's you're allowed to, say, oh, you're banned from the property because of your past behavior.
And they were informed of this. They were giving a formal letter, blah, 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 blah. So as former protest, Oleg brought their crocheted penises, their dick doilies, to Mattress Factory, set up in the vestibule, and they just started, from what Haley said. I actually got a text from Oleg claiming that this is not true.
Okay.
But they said
the drama continues.
That they were, it never ends. So they were Haley claims that Oleg was yelling at guests who were coming into the museum, like, do you want to buy a dick? Do you want to get slapped with a dick?
That is a direct quote. Do you want to buy a dick? And, quote, do you want to get slapped with a dick?
With a dick doily. So this is...
We're adding doily, but...
I'm adding doily.
I mean,
but
come on.
if you look at it, it's a dick doily.
I feel like that would have been even a little bit better if they would have said,
so anyway, I just want to clarify.
She
didn't... So I think this is an extension. Oleg has a project called How Big of a Dick Are You? And I think this is an extension of that, these dick doilies.
It is a real art project.
It is a real art project.
It's not like, I better whip up some artistic dicks for my protest.
So... This is nuts, though. So one of the things that I found that Haley said as we were laughing, but there were some things. So at one point, I guess, as Haley was talking to her, this is a really brief incident. It was between 5:30 and 6.
Okay.
That was it.
Yeah.
The police came.
They
She was
basically were
escorted,
just like,
or they
okay,
were escorted out.
Yeah.
So at one point, Oleg yelled at. This is Haley's claim that an older African American man walked in. And Oleg said, "Do you want to buy a dick? I'll give it to you half price because you're black."
Whoa!
And Haley said, "He looked horrified."
Wow.
And
Offensive and really racist.
It's so yeah.
Wow.
It's the one thing that Haley just. I mean, we didn't know what to do. We were like, "How do we talk about this in a serious way?" Because I mean, it was very. It was meant to be performative. It was meant to cause a ruckus.
Yes.
It was meant to be
that protest was a performative.
Yeah,
protest.
it was performative. It was, and I mean,
inappropriate.
They
but
definitely
performative.
Yeah, they definitely took it to the next level.
Yeah,
and we just couldn't stop laughing about it. And Haley said, at one point, she said, "Oh, the police came." And she said they were very respectful, and they said, we understand that this is your artwork, and they were very delicately putting these neon dicks in a bag. And Haley claims Oleg disputes this, but Haley claims that Oleg was even threatening to hit the police with dicks.
Oh.
So I don't know if that is true. I just want to point that out.
But the police were being, according to Haley, very.
She said they were
very
being
calm
very
and
very respectful. Yeah,
folding the dick doilies and putting them away. So let's
good.
Well job.
Thank you, Pittsburgh Police.
Well job, Pittsburgh
for
Police.
being respectful of art.
Yes.
Oleg claims that they were very nice, that they were very respectful when they were being let out.
Yeah.
And Haley actually said too, they were let out without incident.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that is. I never said in this that. I think I actually said they were let out without incident. Yeah, I did.
Well, anyway, this is a story. There's much more. Please go read it. It's so good.
Let me just say, there's even more to this. There is some personal attacks by Oleg against Haley that I did not add because I didn't think they were relevant, but I was still like, whoo.
As like any story like this, like there's always even more than what's in the actual story.
Oh,
and sometimes you can't really
it's nuts
print it because it's impossible to verify.
It is, and I mean, like, apologies to Oleg and people who are non-binary for messing up the pronouns. Like I said before, this was something where the pronouns were messed up, and Haley was very
which is screwed up.
Yeah, and I mean it is, and I apologize for messing it up.
Yeah, you corrected yourself.
I did, but it's still it's tough because Haley was very adamant about, it's they, them. Right. And then, of course, I asked Oleg, and Oleg confirmed that. So that was something where, you always feel bad about messing it up. And I do. So, but I mean, it's bananas.
Do you think that, because, like I mentioned, that Haley Haldeman is married to Connor Lamb, the U.S. congressman from our area, or suburban area. And do you think that who's had the crazier public interaction at this point, Haley or Connor?
Wait, what did Connor have?
Well, Connor's a congressman. He has to go to town halls, and he's got a bunch of MAGA chuds like coming to his place and like yelling at him and stuff like that. And I'm wondering,
do you think they go home at night and just, what was your day like? Well, a person came into the museum and threatened a bunch of people with dick doilies. How was your day, honey? They must. I would imagine that's
and they just gotta keep that like reserved Pittsburgh ness about them all the time because of this, and because they're in very precarious situations. It feels like all the time.
Sometimes though, like this with this though, I mean, we were just cracking up because I was trying to keep my very professional journalism, the way you term questions. Right. And I said, I would just pause and be like, so when they showed up with the dicks, what? And like, we would just.
Sometimes it's good to let your guard down though, because
I didn't know what to do.
Because sometimes that like rigid professionalism that journalists always like strive for, it's like, oh, we have to be like professional. It's like you don't get as good of interview. You don't get as good.
Don't.
Yeah, you need to be
really
personable.
Don't. Especially when, in my case, when I'm speaking with artists, and I speak with artists, musicians, comedians, the whole gamut.
Yeah.
It can be more relaxed for sure.
Right.
Which. Can I transition into this?
Transition. Another funny art story we got. We're just full of funny stuff. We're full of funny stuff this week.
I'm just so funny. I'm just so funny this week. Oh my god, it's been nuts.
It's been
1 week
Josh
with a crochet dick.
Josh
So, speaking of arts reporting, so I went to a show, Book of Mormon, not Book of Mormon.
Not Book of Mormon.
Book of Merman.
Book of Merman. Not mermen.
Not mermen.
Like the male versions of a mermaid.
Like hot male fish.
Like Jason Momoa.
Yeah. Like if Jason Momoa had a big old fish tail.
Yeah.
And you saw him and you were like, what's that fish dick like?
Damn. Is it a doily? Mermen definitely have doily dicks. Let's just say that. Right?
Do you think it has scales?
No, I think it's like tucked
Scale
in between the scales, and then it just pops out like a doily. You know? I mean, honestly, like fish, how like fish have sex, how how fish have sex. There's no penetration. It's just squirting it into the water.
No, it's true.
Yeah. So that's why it's like they could easily actually have a doily dick because there's no reason for it to be okay. This
just
is like
what if it was like a puffer fish? Like a puffer fish, it just inflates with air.
Yeah, no, it doesn't even need to because it's just about squirting out the.
But what if it was like those
the seamen.
You know the.
Jason Momoa, Seaman.
Do you know?
Right,
those,
that's the movie, right?
What are those air pumps that people? What are those air pumps that people used to use on like when people had like fireplaces?
Oh
the air pumps.
A billow.
What if it was like a billow? It was just like inflated with air, and there was like just like squirted out the semen.
That's what it is.
Perfect.
Yeah,
we figured it out. Science.
I mean, I'm a renowned mermanologist.
Oh.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
So
before you got into journalism,
right?
You were getting your doctorate.
I was getting my doctorate. I was writing my dissertation, and then journalism like Ryan, they need you.
Ryan,
gotta write about earthquakes and fucking buses, you know?
So here's the thing. Sometimes it is when you go to a show and you do not like it, and you are like, I can't even like find any redeeming qualities about this. What do I do? Right. So I went to the show. I really didn't
because we don't want to be like I mean like our art reviews. We don't want to just bash things because that's not because there probably are some people who did like it, right? And so we want to kind of.
There were people who liked it when I went, and they were all not my age.
Right. And so, yeah, they all know who Ethel Merman is, and who I also don't know who it is. I mean, I
do, but like, I also had a mom who was like an old Hollywood head.
Okay, wait. Okay, so
anyway,
Book of Merman is not about male mermaids.
No,
it's not about.
Hannah Lynn, our one writer, thought.
I also thought.
You also thought?
Yes.
Okay.
But it is tangentially
related
to the Book of Mormon, or it's kind of based on
what it's doing.
The Book of Mormon, which is a play about Mormon missionaries written by the South Park dudes.
Yeah. So it is a mashup of the Book of Mormon and Ethel Merman, who, if you are into musical theater, if you are into old Hollywood, whatever, she was like the...
Sing a song for us.
There's no business like show business.
Yeah. Oh, that's her?
That's her.
Oh, okay.
It's like, anything you can do, I can do better.
Oh, my God,
like that kind of thing.
I can do anything better than you.
So that's Ethel Merman.
Yeah. Oh,
so
my gosh.
she had
Brilliant.
this, like, very distinct voice because she wasn't, like, like a chanteuse. Like, she wasn't that kind of, like... Yeah. She didn't have, like, a beautiful voice, but she had, like, this big, brassy voice that she could, like, really project. And she had, like, this big personality, and she was, like, this huge, just, like, grande dame of, like, musical theater.
Dope.
So, I mean, she is a fascinating woman.
Right.
I mean, just in general.
Iconic.
Oh, a legend.
Legendary.
She is legendary. So this is like, what if we took kind of like new Broadway? We had Book of Mormon meeting old Broadway, which is Ethel Merman, and let's just, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
What happens, I didn't find particularly impressive because it was, I don't know. I think part of it is just like, I'm not the biggest musical theater fan. Also, I just kind of felt like there were some like technical issues.
I love the Book of Mormon, by the way. That's what
I've never seen it.
I saw it in Boston. And I was like,
I mean, it was a hit. It was a hit show.
Great.
It was huge.
So funny.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of like, I don't think it was on the level of Hamilton, but it was sort of like that hit. It was sort of like that hit show for a while.
It was a little bit too mean to be on the same level as
South
Hamilton.
Park guys.
Because if you're a Mormon, you're probably not a huge fan of it. But basically, everyone can like Hamilton. I mean, Mike Pence went to Hamilton, so like,
Yeah, it's a very accessible show.
Right.
So this is like, so one of my issues with this was there's a lot of things you need to know, which I kind of proved with my husband, who I didn't force him to go. He came with me. But right before we walked in, it dawned on me. I was like, you don't know who Ethel Merman is, and you've never seen Book of Mormon. What are you going to do?
Complete blank slate.
No joke. I would look at him after every musical number. I would turn and look at him, and his face would just be like... He had no idea what was going on.
So basically, because you weren't a huge fan of the show.
Yes.
And you didn't really feel like writing a...
No, I didn't want to write like a really mean review. Yeah. You
told the story of the Book of Merman through your husband, through this like what's the term, like really naive, like,
just like completely non-privileged viewer. He went in knowing nothing about this,
right? And
so I just interviewed him and said, what did you think?
Right.
And so the interview was we published it in print. It's also online, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a very condensed interview.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot more to this. I had to cut this down drastically, but there's like so much more about it that's funny. But I mean, like, one thing that he points out that I agree with was that like you have to really know what's like not only who Ethel Merman is and what the Book of Mormon is, but also Mormon culture and Mormon beliefs.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of jokes.
Well, because that's really like the Book of Mormon. Like the play, which is okay. First of all, the Book of Mormon is an actual thing. It is a real thing. It is the third book in the Mormon Bible universe, basically, like Old Testament, New Testament, Book of Mormon, and basically the Book of Mormon describes like Jesus's path to America.
Yes, I did not understand that. There's a joke about that.
Right.
Ian and I. No idea.
Sorry, Mormonism is just an offshoot of Christianity.
Oh yeah.
And it's basically an American version of Christianity where Mormons believe that Jesus like came to America through their prophet Joseph Smith.
Right. And
who started in Rochester, New York area and then pilgrimaged to Utah, but he got killed before he got to Utah. He was a very controversial figure.
Oh, they were very...
It's actually, Mormonism was actually really interesting in American history because they were really persecuted.
Oh, super persecuted, yeah.
And, obviously the country was not super tolerant in the 1800s.
Or today.
Or today, yes.
I think that there's actually, like, I don't know if it's a series or if it's just one PBS documentary. Thank you, Josh. There's a...
He's finished with his egg.
Singing amongst his egg debris over there.
Egg.
But there's supposed to be like I watched part of it. There's this PBS documentary that actually traces the Mormon journey to Utah,
right?
And how they ended up
there,
which
they called Deseret, by the way. Yeah, and they wanted to name the state Deseret before it was a state, when it was just a territory, when it was ratified as a state. Yeah. The Mormons who had pilgrimaged there and started to really set up shop, they wanted to name it Deseret, and the United States was like, no,
No.
Because
No,
they
thank
named
you.
it
I would've
Utah
named
after
it
the Native
penetration.
American, heritage there because the Native Americans were there first. And they did that. But the second largest newspaper in Utah, which is run by Mormons, is called the Deseret News. Yeah, right after the Salt Lake City Tribune.
It all makes sense now.
Yeah.
It's, but I mean,
I read that book by John Krakauer about Mormonism, which is a really good book. Yeah.
I need to revisit it because I started watching the Mormon, the PBS special, and I really need to go back and watch it.
And also, just want to break some myths about Mormonism.
Yes.
It's not really about polygamy.
No, it absolutely is not.
There was an offshoot early on that was really about polygamy, and that offshoot still exists, but it's a super tiny minority fraction in the same way that Muslims are not extremist killers like everyone thinks that they are.
Right.
There's this little tiny sliver of an offshoot, and that's the same with Mormons and polygamy. So please stop saying that Mormons are polygamists. It's offensive.
It's offensive, and it's also, and I mean, even the Mormon church has
There's plenty of other things to criticize.
That.
There's plenty of other things to criticize the Mormon church on.
Oh, dude, watch the movie. Watch the documentary Tabloid sometime.
There was a huge story just out this year that they basically avoided paying taxes on $1 billion or something like that.
Oh my God!
Because they're scamming their users. So yeah, there's a lot of other things. Just stop it with the whole polygamy thing.
Yeah,
it's really annoying.
And also, who fucking cares? If
well,
you want to marry,
it's against the law.
I know it's against the law, but it's also why? Why can't you marry multiple people as long as they're consenting adults?
I've had this conversation with Stephanie many times, and she has changed my mind on that whole thing. But it's a whole other story. Let's get back to this thing here.
Wait, is Steph for polygamy?
She is of your mindset of who cares if no one's hurt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm of that mindset too.
That's why I like Steph.
Yeah, that's right.
So anyway, so I interviewed him, but one of the things, and this is not in the print version, but it's in the online version because we didn't have room for it. Is I asked him what his favorite part of the show was, and he said, "Oh, there was a joke about Jesus coming to America," and I said, "Is that something that Mormons believe in?" And he said, "Oh, I don't know. Is it?" And I said, there's a joke about the Osmonds.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Who are Mormons, right?
Who are Mormons?
Or I don't know.
I think they still are.
Okay. Yeah.
Are they?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think
so.
Marie might have
apostate, I think they call them when they leave.
I think Marie might have left, but I don't know.
I know way too much.
Anyway, so I actually laughed at the Osmond joke, and Ian said, "Are the Osmonds Mormon?" And I said, "Yeah," and he's like, "I have no idea."
Mitt Romney's Mormon.
Mitt Romney is Mormon,
right?
It's true. There's actually a lot of Mormon public figures and celebrities. I mean,
I grew up with a lot of Mormons.
Yeah.
Strangely enough, in the Bay Area, there was a pretty big Latter-day Church in my town, and I knew a decent amount of them actually, which is. I think there's definitely more on the West than there are.
I didn't. So here's the thing. I view Mormons as kind of I grew up with Mennonites and Amish. Amish is not the same. Amish is a whole different thing. But I feel like it's kind of like Mennonites, where it's you have the Mennonites who are much more Orthodox.
Yeah. And
who will wear the garments and stuff like that. But then I have a friend who's Mennonite. She's just wears normal street clothes and has works and does
it's just
that
like anything else.
Yeah, it's just
you become more assimilated. I have so many opinions about Amish though, and really Mennonites in Pennsylvania and Ohio and states like that.
I can help you with this
because I have so many thoughts because both these states, Ohio and Pennsylvania, are pretty nativist and they're pretty anti-immigrant. Obviously, Trump won both the states. I think the anti-immigrant thing was a really, 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 really huge part of that. And so both these states are and the whole idea about anti-immigrant is why don't they assimilate? Why don't they speak English? Why don't they just we don't apply that to the Amish who've been here 150 years.
Yeah,
we're oh, just do your thing. It's fine. It's fine. But if you're Mexican, it's speak English.
Well, and you speak.
And they do speak English. It just takes more than 10 years to learn English. It's hard.
Oh, not even 10 years.
Got a story about this coming out.
Not even 10 years. Yeah.
No. Especially if you're a kid. It only takes a few years, But if you're an adult, it's hard. It's really hard.
It's
Do you imagine
difficult.
moving to Mexico right now as 30-year-old dish, and being oh, you don't know it. I mean, I know a little Spanish, but you don't know any Spanish at all.
Yeah.
And then they're just okay. And then within 5 years, every person in the country is screaming at you. It's why isn't your Spanish perfecto? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
But we don't do that to the Amish, and I wonder why.
We
'Cause they're
don't.
white.
I mean, I grew up with the Amish. I grew up in central Pennsylvania, and my dad, I grew up on a dairy farm, and my dad also worked in, he basically like would install and repair milking equipment.
Oh, cool.
So he worked a lot
He's a
with
milkman.
the Amish. He was an all-around milkman.
A milkman.
Not a soy boy.
Milkman.
Milkman.
McMillan. Book of Milkman.
Not a soy boy, a milkman.
The real stuff, the good stuff.
So he worked a lot with the Amish. My dad actually does not like the Amish because he's worked with them, and saying
we
that
don't
I
have to
feel
get
the
in-
same
yeah,
way,
right,
but we're not
right,
gonna get
right,
into it.
right.
But so I played with Amish children growing up.
Right.
You know, it is interesting because but not all of them speak. So there is a type of dialect.
Yeah, Pennsylvania
it's like
Dutch.
Pennsylvania Dutch. It's
Right.
like a form of
German, right?
Yeah, it's like a form of German. It's
Yeah.
like German English. I feel like they speak it. There's like those weird
Jernglish.
Amish. Jernglish. There's Germish.
Ingman.
There's all of those Amish reality shows.
Yeah.
Some of them do speak it.
Yeah,
There's definitely some of
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But yeah, I grew up. I mean, well, it's funny too because like I remember I worked at Burger King.
Speak English.
Speak Germish. I remember I used to work at Burger King, and there would be like buses full of Amish people that would come in.
Yeah.
And they spoke some English, but they would come up and say, you know, I distinctly remember this one Amish gentleman coming up and saying like, "I want hamburger." And I said, "Okay." And I just gave him a hamburger.
Yeah.
I just put in hamburger. Like, I just like, all right. But no, it's interesting.
That's so funny because I worked at McDonald's growing up, and
Yeah.
I grew up in California, so there were a lot of Latinos there.
Yeah.
And some people would just order in Spanish, and I knew enough Spanish that I could and it was the same thing. And I was just like, boop.
Well, you can just say like
La hamburguesa?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Hamburger.
Well, you could also just say a number.
Huh?
You go into Burger King and just say like, you know, you could just order a number meal. You
Right,
don't even have to
right,
say
right.
like the name.
Numero uno.
Yeah, numero uno. It's like, all right, Big
Just
Mac
like,
for you.
It's not that hard. It's not that hard to like speak a little bit of a different language.
It really
It's
isn't.
really not.
It really
not a
isn't.
lot of it. You only need a little bit.
I started teaching myself Portuguese on Duolingo. And
Oh.
I got pretty
Okay,
far
all right.
before I
Shout out to Duolingo.
Duolingo.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh base. Pittsburgh unicorn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did pretty well. Before I feel like the one thing with Duolingo is like you can get like really intense with it
Yeah.
for like months. And then I started like, I missed one day and then I missed 2 days and then I missed 3 days. And like the little owl would pop up and be like, "Hi,
Yeah.
you need to do your Portuguese lesson." And I was like,
what's hello in Portuguese? Is it like similar Spanish, like hola?
"Yeah, hola,
Okay.
yeah."
Is
I
it
know.
Hola.
I like cup xícara is my like favorite. That's my
Ooh,
favorite
that's pretty
Portuguese word.
good,
Cup.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Ooh.
love xícara.
I don't know what cup is in Spanish.
I have no idea.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay. That's great. Read both of Amandica's art stories. They're great this year. You know what I kind of want to talk.
Amandica?
Yeah, that's your name. You're like, like Cupida or whatever you called that thing, Chicada or whatever.
Thanks. But yeah, read Book of Mormon. It's kind of an experiment I did. It's a different approach to a review, just because I didn't know what else to do, and I think it came out pretty well.
I think so too. I really enjoyed reading it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we talk about Bloomberg? I really want to talk about Blooms. Yeah.
Do we have to?
Yes.
Why does he even bother?
It's to this point. Okay. Anyway, we're talking about Michael Bloomberg.
Let me hop in here real quick.
As a former
Hello.
New York City
Bloomberg
resident.
Insider here.
Yeah.
I've been to numerous Bloomberg primary parties.
Oh.
Open bar.
Wait, have you?
Oh,
Okay,
yes,
this
I
is-
have.
This is what I want to
Wait,
get at.
why?
He used to live in New York
I
City.
had a friend, a really good friend who worked for Bloomberg. I'm
Oh.
not going to say his name.
And
He's not listening.
did
Have you
you
met him?
live in New York City?
I don't remember.
Under.
Oh,
Mayor
yeah.
Bloomberg? He
Yeah,
was
both
your
his
mayor?
terms.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right. So we got a real Bloomberg expert.
Was
in
he
our
right
midst.
after Giuliani? I'm trying to remember.
I don't. Yes. I don't.
Yes.
Yeah,
No,
he had
yes.
to have been.
Yeah.
Bloomberg.
There might have been somebody else.
Bloomberg.
before that. I don't know.
The Berg. Did he do 3 terms?
Not my mayor.
I think it did. I can't remember. I think he was in there. Yeah, because Giuliani was there for 9/11, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And then
Yes, he was.
and then they banned cigs in like 03. This is how
Soda tax.
this is how I historically
Oh,
remember.
soda tax.
Yeah, and so that was definitely Bloomberg. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was like he's the anti-fun, anti-vice mayor.
I will say just
Trans fats were booted.
Trans fat.
Trans
Remember that?
don't sleep on the trans fats.
Man.
Well, I will say one of my favorite Giuliani moments was the ferret argument. Do you remember this? Ferrets are like banned in New York City.
Oh.
And he was on a radio
They're
talk
banned in
show,
California,
and
too.
this caller, they let this caller through who was like, what's your problem with ferrets? Why won't you allow ferrets? And Giuliani was like, you are a degenerate. Like, Giuliani has like a thing against ferrets.
It's crazy that the city of New York elected just like 20 years ago, like two kind of crazy Republicans. Like, what's going on?
Bloomberg
I mean,
ran
because
as
of 9/11,
Yeah, bullshit. He's a Republican.
No
you
shit,
know, right?
but I'm
he
saying-
doesn't- he didn't ran as. he
Yeah,
doesn't
I
run
know
as a
exactly.
Republican, right?
But he's been an independent. He's been a Democrat. He's been a Republican.
Yeah.
So it's basically
Yeah.
everything.
Chameleon.
Yeah, it's everything you hate about a politician
Yes.
wrapped into one. I am going to do what serves my purpose right now.
Right.
To get what I want done for basically for myself.
Right. So in that general sense of what people, when you just ask a person on the street, you know, what is your opinion of politician? You don't even say like Trump. You don't even say Obama. You don't even say anybody. You go, what is your opinion of politicians? They're like, they suck. You know, they're just out for themselves. Blah blah. Like Bloomberg.
Yeah, he's
is
the definition
actually that
of it.
definition.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
100%.
and it's so insane to me that you see him rise in these national polls, and it just shows that really all you need to do is just get on TV commercials. It's the same with buying SUVs. It's literally the same thing. The reason that there's been an uptick in people buying
But this
SUVs
is one good
is
thing-
because there's so many commercials.
But this is
about
one
them.
thing the internet's good at, I think, is shining a light on these phony baloney
It's not working.
bullshit
that well.
machines.
It's not working.
What's
that
his
well.
numbers
only been
though?
a
What's his numbers aren't great.
He's up to like second place or third place at this point. He's only been doing.
It's
it for
gonna
like-
come crashing
Wait.
down. It's gonna come
In
crashing
the
down.
caucuses?
No, in the national polls.
He hasn't even. He was
Yeah,
not in the
right.
caucus.
I think in the Florida. I think there was a Florida poll that just came out for the state of Florida, and
Well,
he's
yeah,
like
that's
second.
Florida.
Fucking
It's
Florida.
Florida.
Oh, those old people.
Yeah,
man.
they probably lived underneath him
Old
and then
People are
moved down
tribal,
there.
Let's just say that. You know, they love old people that speak to
What?
their old person language, or young people that speak to their old person language, and they hate Bernie because he speaks.
My
young person's
favorite
language.
Bloomberg anecdote was Shakira came for something.
Yeah.
And of course he had to, like the mayor has to get in on that,
Yes.
And it was
Ooh,
just like a big.
when Ravenstall got in on Snoop's car ride or whatever
Oh
like
my
that. Do you
I
remember
don't
that?
know. I was
Okay,
probably
never
in New York
Right.
when.
Yeah, bummer.
I remember Ravenstall came to visit one time. My friend who worked for you guys will like this, who worked for Bloomberg, Ravenstall came to visit Bloomberg and he didn't wear a tie and my friend got all pissed off. Thought it was disrespectful.
Whoa!
It's great.
Okay, so
Classic Luke, no
so
tie.
Ravenstall, I will say, so for this issue, we should mention we did.
Actually, it's Luke Steelersstall.
Oh yeah.
No. So for this
Remember
issue.
when he changed his name?
Shut
No,
up.
I wasn't here for that.
So
This
we
is
did-
more important.
No, this is more important because we asked Pittsburghers for their bad online dating stories, and I have heard from people about Luke Ravenstall's online dating.
Oh, antics.
Yeah.
Former mayor of Pittsburgh.
Former mayor of Pittsburgh, Luke Ravenstall, because he is divorced from his beloved.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
But yeah, he apparently he does a lot of online dating,
I can see that.
and I have some stories.
That's weird that he would online date because
Oh yeah, he does.
he's pretty well known. It's like, does he really need to do that?
He
I
does,
guess?
apparently.
You think he'd have a big enough network to just like find people to date?
Nope.
But I guess not. Okay.
No. So like but Lisa was like, you have to get somebody who's like willing to talk about it, and I was like, I don't know if I can. But yeah, I have a couple friends who have told me about his online dating
Oh.
proclivities. Let's just say.
And he goes, he doesn't have a pseudonym. He goes by Luke.
I
Former
think
mayor of Pittsburgh, Luke Ravenstall. Does he
so.
have that on his thing? That'd be
I don't
amazing.
even know what app he'd be on. But yeah, I have some stories.
Anyway, there's stories. Okay,
Josh, Bloomberg
let's get back to
expert.
Blooms. Back to Blooms.
Okay, I want to drop a quick Ravenstall.
Okay, real
I
quick.
can't.
Raven.
I can't
Another
remember.
one?
Yeah,
I
just
can't remember.
Do it. We got plenty of time.
Stop talking. I'll do it. At some point when we were playing, the Steelers were playing the Ravens in the playoffs, and he changed his name to Luke Steelersstall. Okay, that's amazing. Anyway, so Shakira comes to New York City,
That is amazingly stupid.
and I don't know.
To New York.
Yeah, and I don't remember what he's standing next to her. He's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, welcome Shakira to New York City,"
Yeah, it
and
was
he's
pretty
like,
decent.
"And I guarantee you, these hips don't lie."
Whoa.
So he has I'm gonna find it and pass it to you guys. This clip of him
What?
saying, "These hips don't lie," and this so forced, such a politician forced phrasing.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's your night. It's things nightmares
this
are made
is
of.
what I just don't get about Bloomberg. I just read this thread about him that really made a lot of sense in terms of. I do agree with Josh that when the news cycle turns over, which people realize takes more than like 10 seconds. Bloomberg is going to drop because all of these things are going to. People are going to be talking a lot more.
Well, yeah, exactly. All this attention.
All the earned media, like on CNN and all these other places, are going to be like, we got to talk about stop and frisk. We got to talk about
exactly, and it's already happening. All this attention that he's prying for is now flipping to all the attention of.
But what's crazy is
his racist banking statements.
Right.
Oh my God.
But here's the thing: he doesn't really have to defend himself though, because he's so rich that he can just keep putting out Bloomberg and Obama are buddy ads on TV.
I read I didn't read this story,
and there's
but
no way to respond to that. And Citizens United fucked us. I'm sorry. This is exactly why. Actually, it doesn't even matter for Citizens United because he's just a billionaire. He can just spend all of its money. We need campaign finance reform where we stop these things. It's ridiculous.
The headline. I didn't read the story, but the headline to me was enough to get the point across. Was that he's kind of trumping it up where. I'm just gonna. It doesn't matter if this negative stuff comes out. Yep. I'm just gonna play it for attention.
Plow it through.
Yeah, just keep pushing it.
Right.
And you know what? There's no better template than Trump because he should not legally be a president.
Right.
No.
No, you're right. He should have been removed.
Yeah,
so
he should
obvious.
probably be in jail for life.
He asked a foreign country to help him win an election. He bribed and threatened them, and it's insane that because we just live in this, we just didn't get the Senate vote. And speaking of the Senate, not that they ever would have had. Speaking of the Senate. Anyway, so nerdy. I know. No. What's funny about Bloomberg is that Bloomberg gave $12 million to help Republican Senator Pat Toomey get elected. And if I hear one goddamn Pennsylvania Democratic voter go, thinking about Bloomberg, are you fucking insane?
Yeah.
He helped Pat Toomey get elected. Narrowly, Pat Toomey only won by 1.5 points.
Yeah.
And that could have been so fucking consequential right now about Kavanaugh, about impeachment, about all these different things that if a Democrat would have been sitting in that seat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Versus this. And so if you're a Pennsylvania Democrat, and you're like, I don't know about Bloomberg, like, are you fucking kidding me?
How is that even like...
Anyone else? Biden, Buttigieg, like all these other, Amy Klobuchar, like seriously, like I'm not...
Anybody.
I'm not personally a fan of those people, but at the same time, Bloomberg... No, it's just
read
a
newspaper. Just read something.
Know that like
Google Mike Bloomberg. You will find out things you don't know that aren't good.
In 2016, he helped a super prominent Republican in the most expensive Senate race at the time in the history of our country win.
Yeah. Most definitely.
I'm sorry. Like that's just
his financial collapse statement of late, like the thing that not of late, but the thing that has come out recently.
No,
what he said.
That?
You know what redlining is, right?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I was explaining redlining real quick. It's just
please do.
It's a practice that the federal government took where they didn't let banks basically, or they encourage banks to not loan to black people and minorities in certain neighborhoods in Pittsburgh. And if you can actually look at a redlining map of Pittsburgh, and the only places that black people were allowed to get loans are the prominently black neighborhoods we have today.
Absolutely.
They were not allowed to get a loan in Ross Township. They were not allowed to get a loan in these other places.
So here's your Democrat
America practicing discrimination.
Here's your Democratic candidate Michael Bloomberg saying that the financial collapse is basically the onus is on the fact that they got lax on redlining.
Right. And they didn't redline enough.
Yeah, they patrolled it too much, i.e. giving proper loans to people that should have them.
Like the housing crisis.
The housing crisis was because
was
of
in part due because America wasn't practicing racist.
Yeah, we weren't racist
tactics.
enough.
Right. And I also just saw yesterday in freaking 2011, he proposed an E-Verify law for New York City with fingerprints, which would have been, and it still probably is, the most strict E-Verify law in the country.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that is so anti-immigrant in a city like New York. Yeah. New York, it's made of immigrants still, you know? Like, and so it's just so insane. Voters, please please, God, just do a little research on Mike Bloomberg. He is not your friend.
I just can't believe anybody would even
Democratic voters, I should say. If you're a
consider.
Republican, maybe, whatever, who cares? Like,
Yeah,
you know, but
do
you're
it-
probably going to vote for Trump. So, like, you know.
Yeah, we honestly don't care about you.
Right? You're probably going to vote for Trump, and that's fine. I mean, whatever. But, you know.
We're not even thinking about you right
But
now.
if you're a Democratic primary voter, which are like the most engaged Democrats, and you're like, thinking about Bloomberg, it's like, oh my gosh, like one thing.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
And Pennsylvania, just please.
Yeah,
spare me.
it's insane. Wow. Okay, we
Yeah.
really went off the rails on that one.
Yeah, sorry.
I was surprised.
just-
No, that was great.
Whew.
No, it was great.
Because I've just been hearing rufflings among some people.
I just
And
can't.
they're just like, oh, I don't know. I'm thinking, some people thinking Bloomberg. It's like, oh my God.
But yeah,
Like,
It's
you're
read
because
a
I was
newspaper,
I was
like-
I was just sending like messages to a friend and like, what is it about America? Like, what in our history made us think that rich people are inherently good? Was it like
Capitalism,
lifestyles of the rich and
capitalism.
famous?
Oh, 1000%.
Like, no, but like, yeah, capitalism, of course, that's
Yeah.
like in our genes. But I mean,
Yeah.
like, what, like, that's almost subconscious, right?
Right.
Like, what consciously made like people our age? Because there are people our age, and there are people like maybe who'd be like, oh yeah, Bloomberg, he seems all right. And you know what that is? I think it's because he's rich. And like,
Yeah, 1000.
One-
yeah, and like, what was it in our like in a 30-year-old's history that like gave such like great respect
Right.
to a rich
Right.
person?
Well,
Like,
it's just a
and why do we
carryover.
never question them?
It's just a carryover, right, from like that post-war mindset where there has been a pro-rich person, culture in America for the last like 70, 80 years. That like that's just what we think is good. And like I think Lifestyles in the Rich and Famous, like the TV show from the 80s and 90s, that really that was just like a symptom of the fact that the culture had already felt that way,
Well,
right?
Yeah, and I mean,
And it only ramped it up. you
well,
know?
a lot of it too is that people, and I think this is like a lot of times why people vote against their own interests is because, with tax reform and things like that, where you rail against like, oh, I don't want to pay taxes. Like, why should I be able to?
Yeah, there's a huge anti-tax mindset.
Yeah,
that
because
really
it's
came
like,
out of the
well,
Reagan era.
It's like, I'm not rich now, but I will be rich.
Right.
And when I am rich.
How's that? But what's so? You're totally right, and
Yeah.
that still
there's
exists in
articles
America.
about this.
But
Yeah.
but it's starting to flip, and so I'm with Josh, and I'm like, how can you be like a 30-year-old and like start to think that like that makes sense? I mean, our generation got screwed. Like we got royally screwed by that mindset, and then that collapsing in like 2008, and
none of those people are in jail.
None.
Nope.
No. Right.
Not a
No.
one.
I mean, like,
Not a one.
I think like a couple Lehman Brothers went to jail, but I think that was like it, right? Like you didn't have
Yeah.
this like mass thing.
And that was, like, so high profile.
And I think this is like, and I was on Lynn's show on Wednesday, and like there is just this generational divide where our generation, that is like to the majority of us, not all of us, that is like so baked into our consciousness where we're like, oh, like this is bullshit, basically.
Like,
And like
we're not gonna be rich.
And like right, yeah, we're not gonna be rich. We're not gonna be rich unless we redistribute wealth. Like basically, like is kind of in our bones, and that's
And
why
it's not even- it's
for
not
younger,
even
that's
about,
why we
like-
like candidates.
I
Like
hate the
Sanders
the
and
phrase
Warren.
redistribute because
Right.
it's more like pay what you should be paying people.
Right.
Right. Like
Like,
what is
don't
Amazon
allow
doing?
Multi-billion
Right.
dollar.
That idiot makes
Right.
$2,900
conglomerates.
per
Right,
second,
Right. No, totally.
and he doesn't
like,
pay any
I know,
taxes.
It's,
Like
it's ridiculous.
I don't know
And-
how you look at that
But I
as
mean, most
anybody
people don't.
and not be angry.
There was this. Oh, it was so good.
It's like this is like French Revolution stuff.
Right. No,
like
it
it's
is.
insane.
No, it is. We're in a gilded age, right? We're in a new gilded age, right? And like, but there was this great segment on CBS News, and they went to like a mall in like Jersey or something. I can't remember exactly
Oh,
where
wow.
it was. And
A mall?
Paramus?
What's
they
that?
just went to malls. And they just asked passersby like how do you think wealth is distributed in America? And they did an experiment with pie pieces, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, pumpkin pies.
Tony DeCopel?
I believe.
Please.
Yeah, yeah. And most people, when they like put down their pies, they they did what they ideally thought America is, where it's like this pretty even, like rich people have like a little bit more, but not like exponentially more. And then they were shocked when they actually showed them what it was, where like literally the entire pie, except for like a tiny sliver, is on the 1% of Americans.
Oh, absolutely.
And then everything else is just distributed to everybody. And the lowest actually they have negative pie. They owe the rich people pie because they're in debt, you know? And
that's why the Republicans are like the most skilled politicians of all time. They have sewn into our society this story where it's all fair.
Right.
Like we're not doing anything wrong here. And for you to ask for your fair share is unpatriotic.
Right.
And
they've done a great job. And
they have made this mythological America that we all live under, and it's just. And like, I think it's breaking down a little bit.
It's definitely breaking down because
the recession was like. People realize like, this is
a lie.
This is
right. That's what I realized.
We fucked up.
That's what I realized. I'm like, everything that I learned up to this point has been a lie, and I don't believe it. I don't believe
nobody's watching out for us. Right. Nobody has our interests, our best interests.
But I mean,
they don't care.
Right, and it is changing because you have this strong support for a candidate like Bernie Sanders. I thought maybe some of that was also going to be as strong and as large for someone like Elizabeth Warren. Apparently, some of those people were just kind of on the train for a little bit and they jumped off, which is unfortunate. Yeah. But at the same time, you still have this base that understands exactly what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. And here's where the Democratic primary is so interesting, and what Bloomberg is so interesting, is that there's still a really big chunk of Democratic voters, maybe the majority or at least a plurality maybe, that are like, we don't really understand that aspect. And it's insane that they don't. And they're basically agreeing tactically with the Republicans that
I think there's like culture.
We aren't this unequal country.
There's a big segment of like culturally liberal people that didn't have to suffer through like 08.
1,000%.
And so they're still like they're
rich older people, because there were older poor people that suffered a shitload. Through that. And I hate to say it, I think a lot of them are Republicans, you know? But there are richer liberal people, older people that didn't suffer through it and are like, let's just go back to normal. It's like, let's go back.
But the thing is, it was never normal. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah.
Right. And that's why they're drawn.
And they see Bloomberg. Like they see Bloomberg as normal. And that's why the Republicans are amazing. And they have sold the biggest bill of bullshit.
Right. But it's on us. And this is something, if you're listening and if you're younger or even if you're older, it's on us to go out and educate the Democratic voter, what's the word? The Democratic electorate, that this is a huge problem, and we have to be united in this issue. And it's been very difficult to unite the older or more establishment Democrats that wealth inequality is this massive issue, that we can fix a lot of those other social issues if we get to this one first. It's a huge thing. It's probably the first step.
And it didn't happen by accident.
No, it happened on purpose. They screwed us over. And so go after these like billionaires and go after these other people. And I think it's a winning message. But man, it's been stressful trying to get there, you know? And Bloomberg,
2020.
But anyway,
his hips don't lie.
So we still got dick doilies, thank goodness. You know? Can still laugh at a good old dick doily.
Still laugh at a dick doily.
I feel like she should. I did it too.
I know.
Oleg should send us some doilies, because I'd like to have one.
I will say, some people, when we posted the story, said, I would like one. I would like to buy. I would like to buy a dick doily. Some people commented that, and I was so like, hey, you know what? Look.
Yes. Hey.
It worked.
All press is good press. Am I right?
Absolutely.
You know.
I wish some people would learn that.
Yes. All right, except for Mike Bloomberg. Fuck that guy.
I've been seeing. Can I just say I stream all of my television and movies for a reason, because I'm like, I don't want to watch fucking ads.
He's gonna invade that.
He did already. God damn it. I can't watch 90 Day Fiancé.
He's got so much money.
I can't not watch 90 Day Fiancé on Hulu without a goddamn Mike Bloomberg.
The thing about how much money
you should not be allowed to buy your way into these things. Like,
but again, Citizens United, like all these things. Like,
what's the word? It's like equal time for
fairness doctrine.
like, how do you get, like, how can you get around that?
I don't think that applies to ads.
It's so, no, it does. You have to like, there has to be equal. Oh, maybe
No,
it
only
does.
if you're
Citizens
giving,
United.
only if you're
That's
giving
whatever you
people
want.
time.
Right.
Then you have to
Okay.
give other people time.
That's
but
true.
It's
Okay,
all,
never
it's
mind.
all, it's all
they're,
ad
they're not
dollars.
giving anybody. They're just
Yeah.
selling it.
It's just one of those things where like he has so much money that he can basically spend as much as he want on ads to influence our electorate, and it doesn't even mean anything to him. It's not even like he's taking this huge risk where it's like, I put 30% of my wealth into my campaign, so like that would mean a big thing if I had a mortgage to pay and these other things like that. He's so rich that it means nothing to him, and if he wins, we want to talk about worried about like, oh, we're so worried about Trump because if he wins, he's gonna like he's gonna grow white nationalism, which he has, and and all these other things, and it was a big worry, and he won, and all those things happened. If Bloomberg wins, we're gonna see Bezos, we're gonna see all these other billionaires, and it's just gonna be billionaire versus billionaire every freaking election.
Yeah.
And
Well, I mean, it was like when Zuckerberg was trying to.
Why wouldn't Zuckerberg run? Like, why wouldn't he run? Probably because he's more hated. But
Also,
I mean,
he's
still.
just like an automaton who has like no.
Right. But I mean, he still could because
Probably
because
because he couldn't speak. He couldn't speak for like 20 minutes at a time.
He's a dingo.
You can make anyone look good in an ad. You can make anyone look good in a 1-minute ad or a 30-second
I need a
ad.
1-minute
I
ad
don't
for
know.
myself.
Zuckerberg looks like a ventriloquist dummy, and
You could do it. You could
like
do
a
it.
ventriloquist dummy in a hoodie. Like he looks so just like
could do it.
dead-eyed. Like I'm human.
They could just have Jesse Eisenberg play him in ads.
Oh wow.
Ooh,
And
I'd vote for him if that were the
everyone's
case.
Like, oh, Zuckerberg, yeah. And they would probably actually think that you could probably get most of America to think that Jesse Eisenberg is actually Mark Zuckerberg.
This is getting super depressing, and it's 11:07.
Yeah, let's
so
go.
let's
Let's get out of
All right.
here.
All right,
All
let's
right.
leave. Okay, bye
Peace.
everyone.
Bye everyone.
Yeah, don't vote for Bloomberg, please.